Hey, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, or whenever you're watching this live. Today, we've got a very wonderful episode to talk about podcasting. Is that what you want to do in 2021? We've got some time left in our hands because we are not going to meetings, we are not on and off or doing holiday planning or anything, but this year we do have some time, at least hopefully. Lockdown is going to finish soon, but we do have some time, and podcast is one of the platforms where you can increase your brand visibility. Just before I came on live, I was speaking to today's expert, and she was saying it's better to do podcasts than YouTube. I want to find out and explore that in detail during the episode as well. If you're on, please do leave your questions if you want Anna to answer that question. And if you can hear me and see me properly, please do drop in those comments as well. And let's start the episode. I really want to know a bit more about what Anna does and how she can help us, because organic reach is going down, isn't it? So we've got to find out other ways to get visible. So a little bit about Anna. Anna Parker-Naples is a best-selling author of Get Visible and Podcast with Impact. She's multi-award-winning Hollywood audio producer. Oh my God, that's what we need, isn't it? Audio producer and business mentor and speaker. She helps entrepreneurs and leaders amplify their message by launching impactful podcast and then positioning it powerfully. Positioning is more important than launching. No point in just launching, isn't it? She's CEO of the Podcast Membership and Podcast Agency and the host of Top 1% Global Podcast Entrepreneurship Get Visible. That's all I've got to share with you about her, and let's bring her on and find out how she can help us. Hey, Anna, thank you very much for.
Hey, thank you. What a nice introduction. Thank you.
It's so, I'm so grateful. I know you've got kids and you're homeschooling and all of that, and it's not easy. I don't have kids, so it's easier for me, but I don't envy you guys at all when you have to do all of that during the lockdown.
I said to the whole family, please be quiet. And so what they've done just as we've gone live is traipse and talk outside the studio. So that's good. We're starting, but that's real life right now.
Oh, bless him. Okay, quickly, tell us a little bit about yourself. Yes, I did your intro, but I want to know, who is Anna Parker-Naples apart from Podcast Queen?
So I help people to really amplify what they're doing. I believe that a lot of entrepreneurs and coaches actually have a really important message that could change the world one person at a time. And I see podcasting and audio as a way to accelerate that know, like, and trust factor. And so done properly, a podcast can be a really powerful part of your toolkit. My background, as you said, I've won multiple awards for my audio work, which kind of started, and particularly in Hollywood, where I've won lots of awards, it kind of started all sort of in this cupboard. What you're seeing me in right now looks like a very professional studio, and it is, but it started off life as my airing cupboard. And the reason that I'm sat in my airing cupboard is because nearly 11 years ago, I was told to expect that I might never walk again as a complication that I had in my third pregnancy. And I had at that point I've been an actor, and I was planning to return to the stage. And I kind of felt really crushed, as you can imagine, because it's kind of big news. But somebody, an NLP practitioner and a hypnotherapist, said to me, he was pointing out to me how negative I was being about many things. And he said, well, what would happen? What would happen if you could still be well known for performing? What if you could still have international recognition for that? And what if you could still be in your wheelchair and be a good mum and earn good money? And the answer for me was voiceover work and voice acting. I could still do it from home. I could still be international. And I basically learned everything I could about audio and editing and running a studio whilst I was totally and utterly laid up in bed. And this was actually my airing cupboard, and it was the only door wide enough that actually fitted my my wheelchair through. So audio has just become just so embedded in my life and my journey. And I feel very much that I've now come full circle, because that audio journey led me to becoming known as one of the leading voice actors in the US, but based, you know, the British voice actors in the US, opened up so many opportunities. And I felt that I very much went from invisible to being visible. And at that moment in Hollywood, I felt very strongly that I had to share that message with other people. And so now I see that role of helping other people who have a strong message. I'm able to help them get that message out there, because I teach them about visibility, and I can bring my audio expertise into it through podcasting.
Wow, that's very inspiring, isn't it? When you're given those ultimatum, that's when we know the true power of ourselves. I choked there for a bit. True power of what can we do if we don't have any other options, which we thought are the ones which we only had. That's inspiring. So tell us about yourself. You were a voice actor. And then when did this podcast idea come about?
I was a voice actor, and I was very, very successful, booked out almost 2 years in advance. And I felt like I felt like I'd done what I set out to do. I'd got that recognition. I was booked out. I was doing amazing projects, but I wanted more. And I'd always had a massive interest in self-development and mindset. And that really, from that time, I'd had that first conversation about what might be possible if I thought differently, kind of just changed a lot of things for me. So alongside my voice acting career, I actually trained in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, really to learn about it for myself. And it just kept opening me up and opening me up and opening me up. And I really realized at that point, well, how many more times do I want to be up for awards in Hollywood? I've kind of done this. What comes next? And I'd never imagined that there would be a next. But for me, it was about, I feel that I am supposed to get my own story out there, that I'm supposed to teach people about this, the mindset shifts, about that strategically those things they want for themselves, that recognition or that business success or that income success, it's all sitting there if you change the way you think and you do the right things to get there. And at that point, I thought I was leaving audio behind, except somebody said to me when I started my first online business, which initially my work was focused on mums, because I was thinking, well, who do I speak to? How do I go from being known in this voice acting world to trying to reach as many people as I possibly can? And I initially started a podcast for mums, because someone said, well, why don't you do that? And I did, except that I didn't understand some of the fundamentals about podcasting. And I knew about the audio, but I didn't understand all the bits that go behind that can help it fuel your business. And so now my second podcast, Entrepreneurs Get Visible, is now one of the top shows in the world. And that is because I went back to basics to unlearn and redo all the things I didn't know how to do first time around. And so what I love about it is that I had no intention that I was going to help people with podcasting and with audio. If you told me that 4 years ago, when I felt like I'd found my voice, I wouldn't have seen that this was part of the journey. Except that I feel very strongly that my mission, my purpose, is to help leaders amplify so that we can raise more people. We can help more people who are stuck in their businesses, stuck in relationships, stuck with mental health or emotional issues. That if I can help other people get that message out there, it's going to be a much better world. And of course, the thing that I can bring to the table that most people teaching podcasting is that I have this back catalogue of insane amounts of audio production and awards and global recognition for it. So what I bring to the table is something very different to a lot of podcast coaches who have done a show and it's doing okay. What I bring to the table is this just wealth of knowledge and experience about really how you make it work, which is really exciting. And I feel like we talk, a lot of people talk about alignment in business. I feel that my backstory and my experience and my mission have kind of all smacked into what I do now, which is I run the podcast membership and I run a high level premium service in the podcast agency where we support leading 6 and 7 business owners to launch powerful podcasts that become, you know, top podcasts around the world. But really the thing I'm interested in is about how do you then reach those listeners in the first place, but how does it fuel your business so that those listeners become clients,
Yes.
so that the podcast becomes a really important part of your funnel, not just a thing you do on the side.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You say put it that way, but I want to take 2 steps backwards and ask you from the point, and from what you've said to me, or what I've heard from you, is that it is easy to just launch something. To make it successful, you need to have a strategic plan. You need to have that alignment of what your story is, what your business is, what your clients are, and string them together.
I'll be honest with you, there are so many free apps now that you could start a podcast on for free, and you could have that up within, you know, probably a couple of days of having the idea. You could do that. But have you stopped to really think about how it's going to feed your business? Have you got all of the elements in your business so that you can take that listener who's doesn't know you from Adam and bring them into your business? Have you got the message right? Often, and I'm actually running a podcast challenge at the moment, and one of the things that I see is that when I get people to stop and think about who they're wanting to reach and why, they say, well, I want everyone to know about this. It's so important. I want everyone to know. And if you're trying to reach everyone, you reach nobody, because nobody's going to tune in. Why would they? It doesn't speak to them. But the minute you hone it, it doesn't mean nobody else would listen, but the minute you're clear on who it's for, your branding can be right, your artwork can be right, the message can be right, the title of the show can be right, and suddenly you've got something that's powerful as opposed to generic.
Yes. Yeah, that's important. I say that all the time, and you wouldn't believe, when I started this show, it was, I wanted, one of my friend, they got LinkedIn Live allocated in end of 2019, beginning of 2019. I asked him, hey, how to get LinkedIn Live? He said, oh, you need to apply for it, and then you get approved once they see your performances. And he said it's better to have a show so that they can go and verify before they honor your request of getting the live allocated to you. At that point, I was so scared of doing any live whatsoever. And then I realized, oh, I do need LinkedIn Live, so I need to do. So I was very strategic. I applied for this and started this show. It was just season 1. I started with a few experts. And then once I got LinkedIn Live, I said, oh, you don't have a native platform. You need to find out a platform to do the live broadcast. That is how I ended up with StreamYard. Or initially it was Ecamm Live, and now it's StreamYard. So it is about the strategic steps you take before you even launch certain things, or before you achieve something. Okay, so what happens? A person says, oh, mine is very visual. We talked about this just before the show. I've got this show, and you asked me, are you going to do it as a podcast? And I said, no, I can't do it as a podcast because it's a visual show. I want to keep it visual. How can I take that visual element and change it into a podcast? What would be the right way to go about it?
The reason, let's talk about the reason you'd want to do that. So when you look at viewer and listener statistics, most people drop off a video within the first 30 seconds. When people listen to podcasts, they tend to, even if they're going to drop off, they tend to listen for the first 5 minutes. Okay, so there's a longer retention of a new listener, even if they plan to go. In terms of listener behavior, some people like to watch a video when they're at home, But when they're out when they're in the shower, when they're walking the dog, when they're driving a car, even a video lover cannot watch a video, but they
Yes.
can listen to audio. And
Ah,
what happens is that even if someone loves watching YouTube or loves watching Facebook or whatever, wherever they consume video, they can't do it all the time, but they can. Audio becomes much more portable. The other thing is that we can carry on our daily lives as we listen to audio, but we can't do the same with video. So you're not only with audio only podcasts, are you able to get in front of the video watchers, but also there's a lot of people who actually prefer audio content, and they would never choose to go over to watch something on YouTube because they are much more of an auditory learner.
yeah.
And what we're seeing is that there's a massive growth in audio consumption of podcasts now. Over the last 18 months, it's gone from approximately 1 in 8 people in the UK regularly listening to podcasts to 1 in 4. And that's a massive growth. And in terms of the amount of podcasters out there, so one of the things that you asked me earlier before we came on was, why would you start podcast over a YouTube? And what I would say is that there's actually over 31 million live YouTube channels. And people are coming onto that platform again and again and again. And yet we still know that YouTube makes sense. Whereas in podcast land, we've only just hit 1.8 million podcasts. Now, when you compare that, do you want to go into a field where there's 31, 32 million, or do you want to go onto a platform where there's less than 2 million? Where can you stand out the most? And the answer is podcasts. And what I want to share with you is that 18 months ago, in fact, just as we were going in last November, so November 2019, November 2019, yes, that is what I mean. There were only 850,000 podcasts, and we now have 1.9 million. So podcast hosting has grown by over 1 million in the last 12 months. So right now, you can position yourself very powerfully alongside industry leaders, whatever it is you do. If you wait 2 years or 3 years, you probably won't be able to do that. But right now, you can achieve, if you do it strategically, you can achieve chart positions. You can achieve, being positioned alongside people like Marie Forleo and Tony Robbins and Gary Vaynerchuk. You can be up there next to them. You can't do that on YouTube. So that kind of credibility badge, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's much more achievable on podcasts than it is on YouTube.
Wow, that's staggering. I love stats. I love numbers and all of that. It's easier to grow on a smaller market space than is the larger one. It's also YouTube is a lot more work than podcast as well. In a different sense, where you've got to do things very strategically to even get the viewership. Whereas in podcast, they can download and consume. That one of the things which I love podcast, I listen to many of them. The very first podcast I listened to was Amy Porterfield in 2015, I think. She was very new. That is when I got this craze of I need to do podcast in 2016, but I'm still doing podcast. I don't know. I've got to get, this year would be that year. So my question to you now is that, how long does it take for a person who doesn't have a podcast, who doesn't have that much of a technical knowledge? Because podcast does involve technical knowledge, right? In a way, you cannot just record it and upload it. You need intro, you need outro, you need other elements to it to make it worthwhile for listeners to listen to. And at the same time, many people go to YouTube is because they've got AdSense. They can make, once their viewership is up, they can make money off that. So how do you make money, and how do you get visible? How do you do the SEO and all of that? I mean, maybe I'm asking too many questions in
Yeah,
one
there's
question.
lots of questions in there. So the first thing I'm going to start with is that if your podcast is right, it's created for the right listener for the right market, then you could get a sponsorship deal. And that is totally plausible. I actually don't recommend people monetize and get sponsorship for the first few episodes. I think you need to build your listenership first. That's my personal like thoughts. But you can get great sponsorship deals. And in fact, we work with people to get this for them all the time. And sometimes that's a really big company that might sponsor you, but also it could be a smaller company that just wants exposure to your target audience. And that's one way. Sponsorship is one way. The other way is that it works as a very effective funnel for your business, because there's something very intimate about hearing somebody's voice, and there's a trust factor. And what we find is that, so for example, I'll take you along a kind of journey one of my clients has recently did. She found me on somebody else's podcast about a year ago. She listened to me on a 15-minute interview. She then went and found me on my podcast and listened to, at the time, I think there was about 50 episodes on there. She spent the best part of a weekend listening to as many episodes as she could. She then messaged me. I didn't know her. We weren't connected anywhere, and said, I want to work with you. How quickly can we make that happen? We didn't have to have a sales call. She knew exactly what she wanted because she'd heard me talk about it on the podcast again and again and again. And she's now worked with me as a one-to-one mentored client, and she's worked with me in my mastermind. And that's when you get your podcast right, that's what can happen. So it kind of raises your profile. It also raises that trust factor. The other thing is that many online business owners are busy creating funnels. They've got their lead magnets. You create your freebie, your opt-in, your nurture sequence, and then are really hesitant to put money on ads, because you have to pay for that traffic, and not everyone's in that situation. But when you are a host or a guest on a podcast and you position your lead magnet as the thing that helps them with the thing that they've just listened to a 20 to 40 minute talk about, suddenly people want your lead magnet. So it can be a really powerful way, because you're sharing your voice and your journey and your personality, for people to go, I like them. I want to know more about what they're talking about, because they sound like they know what they're doing. So they're the kind of there are many different ways you can monetize a podcast, but they're the two main ways that people start with.
So your point again is we need to launch it properly. Where do we start? How many episodes? How do I start?
It starts with really following a training of someone who knows what they're doing, because it's more than just getting it hosted on a platform. It's making sure you do the right research, making sure you know which shows you're going to be positioned alongside, so you look as credible, if not more credible than they look, making sure you've got the right keywords in your title, your artwork, your description, all sorts of tags that happen behind the scenes, making sure that everything on the show is search engine optimized, so that it actually works, as opposed to just being, oh, I fancied recording this episode and so I knocked it up. It's not about that. There's more strategy that goes on, and that's the difference between a successful show and one that's kind of there and becomes a bit of a headache. But also, Sudra, one of the things we talked about is that I repurpose a lot of my StreamYards. So I'll do what you're doing, and I will do a live broadcast, with all the branding, and we go on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. But I will be really clear with my audience. This is a live broadcast of my podcast. So all we need to do afterwards is strip the audio out, the team edit it, and then it's ready to, we add the intro and the outro and any calls to action that we want, and then it becomes a podcast. And if you're live streaming anywhere to LinkedIn or Facebook or even IGTV, well, those posts only last 24 to 48 hours and then they disappear. Whereas a podcast has a shelf life of 7 years. So which one makes sense? you know.
Yeah, that's true. I think that is another reason why many people go to YouTube as well, because that's got a more lifetime than Facebook Live or any other live broadcast. So, okay, we've done this. What is the preparation a person has to do once they decide? Yes, they need a mentor, they need someone else to mentor them. What is that? For example, not many can just go on, get a mentor. If they want to do on their own, what is the best way they can do to start with? Get 10 or 15 episodes, get the ball rolling, get comfortable
to get
recording
the ball
something.
rolling, then it's a question of doing the planning, getting some good quality equipment. It doesn't have to cost a fortune, around $100 or £100 or whatever. Get a good quality microphone, find a good space in your house that isn't noisy. It doesn't have to look like this, but it just needs to be away from windows, away from noise, away from hard flooring. And then I'm a big believer that audio editing can be as complex or as simple as you make it. And actually, if you know how to copy, highlight and paste in a Word document, you can learn to edit well enough to get your podcast started. Your show might not sound all singing or dancing. It might not sound the most impressive, but it would be enough to get you started and find out if you love this platform. And then, so you then host it on a podcast hosting platform. You then connect it to Apple, you connect it to Spotify. And then, all the other accoutrements, having things like show notes and special artwork for every single episode, they're additional extras, which of course, the more you have of those, they position you more strongly and your show will be more effective. But you could start reaching a new audience by getting a podcast out there. But I think one of the most important things is actually launching it. So many people say to me, oh, I've had a podcast for about 6 weeks and I've not really told anyone about it. I just thought I'd see how it went first. Well, it's not going to go anywhere until you launch it and you tell people you've got it. And I always think that if you really are serious about standing out from the crowd as an authority in your field, but in the podcast space, you have to treat it like you would treat a product launch. You have to give it that attention. You have to give it that gusto. You have to drive traffic there. Because once you've done that once, your show can then grow organically.
Yeah, that's very interesting. One thing which I heard yesterday when I posted this about this show on Facebook, one of my friend, and she's a very good friend, and she is an artist teacher. She was saying to me that I could not reply to her immediately. I think I still have not replied to her, but I saw the comments. She said, hey, I can't do this because mine is more creative. It doesn't have to be, is it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Even if she is an artist teacher, one of her offerings is art journaling. She teaches the individuals how to do art journaling. So she can have a show. She can talk about how art journaling could help increase the mental health and other things, and she still can have a show and invite people later to talk about how art journaling had worked, right?
Yeah,
so there is no stopping that I am in this industry, I can't do this.
No, not at all. Podcasts actually can work for everything and anything. If someone's interested to learn about it, you can podcast on it.
Yes, that's very interesting. So once, how you told us, gave us more reason of how a brand could be visible using the podcast, and you also gave us an idea of what are the minimal tools we need to do to at least to kickstart the podcast. What should they do? What is the timeline? For example, okay, this is the timeline I would like to have. If you're thinking about launching a podcast, you need at least 3 months ahead of you. You need 10 episodes or 5 episodes, or how does it work?
I recommend that people launch with 10. so that they've got enough material to get listeners on and listening, because you climb the charts by having playthroughs, downloads, listens and reviews. So you've got to have enough material there for people to have listened and reviewed to. But there is a whole strategy around that. But I would say from deciding you want a podcast to getting it out there, I normally say about 8 weeks. You could do it quicker, but does that give you enough time to warm up your audience to the fact and get them excited and intrigued as to what's coming? Because it's not just about, oh, today I'm going to decide to have a podcast and tomorrow it's up. You need to build in the excitement, the teasing, the build up, so that you run it as a campaign at launch. So I normally say 8 weeks, 8 weeks from conception to launch.
Oh, that's not too long, is it? Sometimes, or at least it took me 4 years anyway. It's taken me 4 years. That's totally different. Okay, so you said you have an agency and you also have a membership program.
Mm-hmm.
Please tell us about that. And do you have any other events coming? Do you run challenges quite often?
So I'm actually right in the middle of a challenge now, which is my infamous Launch Your Podcast Challenge, and it's a 5-day challenge. It's running on Monday.
Last year, I was
okay,
last
you know
year.
It. So we're running that at the moment. But I run the podcast agency. So I realized there were a lot of high-level entrepreneurs who don't want to learn how to do it themselves. They literally want a great show that's going to reach a wide audience, the right people, and they want those, they want those #1 chart positions here in the US, across Europe, wherever. So we work with them to do a lot of high-level consultancy with them. They come with an idea, we shape it, we form it, we do all the research, we do all the search engine stuff for them, and then we produce the whole show. So that's in the podcast agency. We provide all of the things like the artwork, the music, the audiograms, which are the little videos that people use on Twitter and social media to promote the show. But we've really crafted the whole thing with them so they understand what they're doing. We give them advice on how to use the microphone so that everything from an audio perspective is going to sound the best that it can, so that they really sound like a pro, as opposed to somebody they might well be in their bedroom recording, but we make it sound that they aren't, that they know what they're doing. And then to have a kind of more open offer, we have the podcast membership, which we've now helped over 150 members since we opened it a year ago to become chart-topping podcasters following my strategy. So that's open. That's open now. We have that open at the moment, but we're running at the moment the Launch Your Podcast Challenge, where we just get people from thinking about what they want to start a podcast right the way through to getting excited about what this might look like for their business. So that's running at the moment.
Wow, interesting. So do you run these challenges quite often, or you just
we run them 3 times a year? So we're right in the middle of doing one now. And then the next one will be April.
Okay. Yeah, it gives enough time. Please do put your links below in the comments after our show so that people can get in touch with you. So in this agency one, where all they do is they record their episode and send it to you, is that what happens?
Yeah. So as the business owner, we have four consultancy sessions, which takes some work. We give you the launch strategy, we give you the templates, we basically walk you through the whole thing, and then as the owner, you as a podcast host, you literally just record the audio, which we'll already have discussed what's going into it, what it's about and how it's going to work. So we give you the framework. You just give us the raw audio, which could be from a StreamYard or a Facebook Live, and then we make it sound amazing and add everything else in. And then from us, you get the show notes, which have been search engine optimized. If you've got a WordPress website, we make sure it goes on the website. We create all of the graphics and the imagery. We pull out quotes from it and create them into graphics for you. And basically everything you need without having to do any of it except turn up in front of the microphone for 10 minutes.
And record it. So what is the ideal time? That's brilliant. That's a great service. I think people has to take advantage of. But having said that, what is the ideal time for an episode? What would be? Is it like
It's
5
too
minutes,
hard to
10 minutes?
answer because it really back to there's 4 things I get people to think about before they start a podcast. What's in it for them personally? What's in it for their business? Why are they doing this? What's in it for the listener? What do you want them to take away? And what passion or expertise are you sharing? Because when you get really clear on each of those elements, that's actually going to inform the length and style of your content. So ideal client work to do here. Because, for example, we were working on this exercise last night. You could have 2 entrepreneurs. One who, let's say they're both corporate men, but they dream of being entrepreneurial. Okay. One has no family responsibility at all. And so when he gets home after work, he can listen in the car. He can listen all evening while he's doing whatever he's doing. The other chap, he has at home very young children, multiple children. His wife or his partner is frazzled. He knows that when he steps out of his car, he has no time for himself. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're targeted about who and exactly what's going on in their life, you know how long your episodes can be. The first chap, he could listen for, let's say, 45 minutes to an hour. That's no problem. The other chap might have 15 minutes. So if you know who you're speaking to and why, then you can be much more targeted in what you provide for people.
Wow. So if they've come to a stage where, oh yes, I am going to do 15 minutes. My ideal target audience is a family man who is wanting to change the career, or who wants to do. Oh, that's very interesting. So how would that apply to the plans which they do? Like you said, you ask them to start with 10 episodes. Do they record the whole 10 episodes in one go and put that on iTunes?
No.
Or
so that is part of the strategy. That's part of the strategy we teach inside the podcast membership. Exactly what you do at launch, how that works, how you drip feed that content, and then when you fall into the regular pattern of delivery of your podcast.
So having said all of this, what is the frequency of the episodes? How frequent should
Again,
the
it's entirely
be?
up to you. It's entirely up to you and your listener, what they need from you. And you've got to go back to why are you doing this? Why are you doing it for you? And why are you doing it for your business? Because if you overcommit to delivering and then you get sick of it, well, then you've kind of wasted your opportunity on the platform if you disappear or you run out of content. So most people, if they're going to podcast, want to commit to 1 a week. I actually do 2 a week because that's what my audience wanted, because I know who I'm speaking to. But none of that happens by chance. You do that through research and asking your audience and working it out and thinking about your own lifestyle as well. What can you really commit to?
So how long does the raw audio takes, the preparation? Do you tell people to write their script and
no, never
speak out, or do you want it to be natural? How does it work?
You don't. Okay. So we encourage people to bullet point what they want to say, so they know the shape of the episode, they know the bullet points they're going to cover, they know what their call to action is going to be. But something that's scripted sounds scripted, and people can tell. And one of the most powerful things about a podcast is the intimate connection of hearing someone's natural voice and their natural timbre, their natural unique style, their idiosynchrony. I never know how to say that word. Idiosyncraticity. This is the one. Yeah. Why do I try and say that? I never know how to say it.
It's same for me. Sometimes it comes and sometimes it just my tongue gets tied up.
So it's about showing up as you, being you.
Yeah, that's true. What would you say to a person? This is more of a mindset, I think. I hate my voice. To be frank with, I hated my voice. Now I got comfortable with it because I had to. There is no other go if I've got to do certain the shows and other things. So what would you say to those individuals who thinks their voice is not radio quality and they listen to their favorite podcaster? and they think, oh my God, my voice doesn't sound like that. It's just
So
horrible.
everybody hates the sound. Everybody hates the sound of their recorded voice. It sounds really different, but that is actually how people hear you. You know, that is what the
Yeah.
outside. When you hear your own voice, you're listening literally through the resonance of your skull. You're literally hearing
Yes.
it through your bones in your head and in your jaw and face and things. And what I would say is people are already hearing your voice. They have done for a whole lifetime. Get over yourself and think about why you want to podcast, who it is you want to reach, and what change you want to make in the world. And I think if you tap into that, that matters way more than your fear about being heard in your normal speaking voice. The other thing is that a great microphone actually you can sound much more resonant and rich. So if that's one of the things, maybe you should get a more expensive microphone, maybe work with an editor who knows how to amplify certain qualities and frequencies in your voice. But on the whole, it's a confidence issue. And this is actually my first book, which is called Get Visible, is actually all about that. How do you overcome that? I'm not good enough, or no one will like me, or I don't deserve to do this. And so in Get Visible, that's what I talk about. And I guess my advice on that one would be, go over to Audible and get a copy of the audiobook version of Get Visible, because it really shares how I used to feel about not just my own voice, but being seen on camera and all of those things you need to be out there as a business owner.
Yeah, to be frank with, I felt the same. I didn't like one of the challenges which I did in 2019, which my friend forced on me, is that you've got to do a video. So I created myself and I made sure that there won't be any lipstick. It doesn't matter as long as I'm not coming on a bathrobe, I'm all right, or a night dress, I'm all right. Was my state, and I had to get comfortable, even if I like. Every now and then you get these memories on Facebook with those posts.
Your first videos.
Say, oh my God.
First videos are
so
terrible.
cringing.
But it's like podcast episodes as well. By the time you've done 100 episodes, you're a much better podcaster than when you start, because you become much more comfortable.
Yes.
And much more confident and much more capable. But if you don't start, how can you improve?
Yes, that's true. I hate when people say, oh, I don't want to do it. Mind you, I said that as well. I hated people saying, oh, I don't want to do that because I want to get this training. I want to do this. Yes, you can improve yourself. You've got to start. You need a baseline for you to improve. So if you don't start, there is no baseline for you to improve. So thank you very much. Please do put in the details of Audible.
I will do. I'll put it all in there.
Yes, please. Before you go, I want to ask a few personal questions of like, it's nothing to do with podcast and who you are. At least it relates to people. So my very first question is, are you a tea or a coffee person? I mean,
tea. I hate coffee. It's disgusting. I live for cups of tea. It's pretty much all I drink and eat. I like milk, one sugar. It's my sugar lift.
Yeah, I do take sugar as well. So I used to be a tea lover. After moving to this country, I've become more coffee lover, because the way I do tea, Indian chai is not as complicated as put the tea bag, pour the water. It's not that. Indian chai there is a way to do it. So the second question is, are you a morning or evening person?
Morning. I don't like getting up, but when I'm up, I'm so switched on. By the evening, I can't. I basically don't work after 4 p.m. in the afternoon, because I'm dead. Yeah. I'm done. So when I'm running challenges, I have to really manage my energy.
Yeah, that's tricky as well. Nowadays, I've become a lot more, since I've started working from home, I've become a lot more flexible in the time, but I do not work, or I set up a meeting after 4 o'clock, unless or otherwise they are in US. So the third question is, what kind of, like, do you like walking in the park or woods, or do you like, you're so Aloha is joined us, and she's saying, both of you are alike.
Yeah, no, I love the woods. We live right near a country park, and I walk my Labrador every day. In fact, that's what I'm going to do as soon as we finish here today. I'm going to the woods.
You've got challenge to do so. You
Yeah.
might have to do the short walk. So you're more a natural person than city. Is that?
Yeah. I love the trees.
Yes, that's good. Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate that. And thanks for your time. I said 30 to 40 minutes. It's already gone over 40 minutes. That always happens. I don't know why it happens, but hey, that's what it is. Thank you very much. And
thank
please
you so much
share
for having
your
me.
details. Yeah, if you have set up your event for April, if you've got some dates, please do that as well, so people can get in touch with you whenever they want to be on that challenge. Thanks for your time, and I'll let you go. And I really appreciate the way it all worked out in the end. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed it. And now I'm pumped to get these shows to go on podcast level. But at the same time, Anna said to me before I came on, I need to think about doing at least some of the episodes on my solo episodes so that that goes first and there is a proper launch, and then transfer these shows in there. So I've got to think about it. I've got a few things coming up. And if you want a full show of, like, I don't want to do anything, I want Anna's agency to carry all these things, please do get in touch with Anna, and she will put her agency details down below. Whichever platform you're on, YouTube or you're on Facebook page or on LinkedIn, it doesn't matter. Please do get in touch with her, and she will be able to sort you out. That's all I've got to share with you today for this week, at least. And I'll speak to you all next week with another expert. Sorry. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye.